Hey, thank you everyone for coming. My name is Malika Low. I'm an employee here at Hawaiian College. And tonight we're going to have a panel discussion about the most recent proposal for 6 telescopes upon Haleakala under the AMOS project title. Right now I'm going to introduce our panelists, and they can join me up here. First, I'll bring up the Kako'o Raymond.
Revitalization of Hawaiian language, its use in our community. I just said that the idea was that, and I made this joke not too long ago because I have Hawaiian blood. Both Mama and Papa are descendants of men who came from, they're not American, they come from British Isles, England and Scotland, came directly to Hawaii, intermarried Hawaiian women and families, Kekahuna, Hawaii family, and yet, you know, genetically, I pulled to my blonde-haired, green-eyed mother, and my special talent is, my superpower is I'm incognito man. Blend in certain groups, and that at the time, the representatives from the National Science Foundation honestly had no idea who they were talking to, and they were very forthcoming with their intentions and their ideas of what a waste of time even the scoping meetings were, because this is a done deal. This is going forward. This is going to be the greatest thing that's going to happen to the island of Maui, a 14-story telescope that couldn't be built if it was a 14-story hospital, could it? Couldn't be built if it was a 14-story educational structure, could it? Couldn't be built if it was a 14-story house for the home structure for the homeless, could it? But we could build a 14-story building on the top of a sacred mountain. That kind of went, I've got to think about that one. The literature is there. It's all available for you folks on the internet. Doing a little research, if you want to go back into that history, is available to you. And I would hope you do, because it's good to obtain, I think, a broader and deeper understanding of what has gone on up there. And I hope you cut me off if I talk too much. That's my
Okay, you're good.
Okay. And that when we're thinking about what we did, we being Kako'o Haleakala, I think there were these little gestalt light bulbs going on, because we'd never really thought these things through before about what an unconscionable act it was for the National Science Foundation, the Institute for Astronomy, to presume that on sacred land they could build whatever they wanted to. And of course, I'm contextualizing with certain assumptions that you folks in the audience do understand, that it is a wahi kapu, not just a wahi pana, the storied place. It is a wahi kapu. And we need to back up on anything we do and really give thoughtful consideration to, okay, what is this word? I see it on everybody's fence, kapu. What is that kapu? I think Hoku will address that a little bit later, but we know it is a wahi kapu. And as we understand, you cannot mitigate the sacred. We turned to the Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation, and I'm very, to this day, grateful to the team of Charlotte Manley and Camille Kalama and Kimo Franco, who worked on our behalf and really focused on the ideas of the well, two things. One is the idea of it's conservation. It was conservation district zone land. IFA still is conservation district zone land. So what does that word mean? Who are we conserving for if we can build anything we want, especially 14-story structures? So there was that side of it, and then there was the other side of it that should have given, we believe, the University of Hawaii National Science Foundation pause when we're talking about the breadth and depth of cultural hurt that was going to occur. And there are other words for it. There are legal terms. Again, probably best for you to ask you folks to do a little research, because doing your research, if you continue to want to oppose this new project, the AMOS, AMOS-STAR project of the MSC, you got to learn acronyms. Get up on your acronyms. They're going to be flying around everything you read. So pay attention to the first time they explain what that acronym is, because they never explain it again. They just they use the acronym. It's another way you got to learn to read, really.
Mahalo. I was wondering.
Thank you.
So you talked about maybe these are some of your guys' strategies that during these meetings, people are questioning what is really, why? Waste of time, right? Is what you said. They're a waste of time.
Yeah.
But there's this process that you guys continue to hone in on, which was 14-story building. Can't find it anywhere else, right, on the island of Maui. So maybe those were kind of your.
But respectfully, no. I think it had to do more with the idea that for our particular case, and I don't know, I haven't done the research, started really the research that I think is going to be necessary for the AMA stars. We found out that there was a lot of political pressure at the time. A former governor, Abercrombie, and then Senator Inoue, for whom the project is now named, were pushing forward their ideas for economic development, for what they thought was necessary. They were. It was obvious that there were Senator Inouye's top staffer went and talked to, and they were doing things that they shouldn't have been doing, and people found out about it, and we took those cases to the Hawaii State Supreme Court. We won 2 and we lost 2, and the actions that we did, the Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation believes assisted with Mauna Kea, because it helped people then learn how to take the fight to the powers that be, if you will. Is that helpful?
Can you talk through a little bit of what those actions specifically were that you guys did with Hawaii Legal Corporation, kind of?
Well, in a sense, what we did, if I understand it correctly, we thought we had standing, I think that's the legal term, because we were aggrieved. All these words from my past are coming up. We were hurt. And the Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation said, yes, the process shouldn't have occurred the way it occurred. And if, let me jump ahead, I think it might be one of the questions you were going to ask. And if we could go forward a couple on the slides. I know I sent in a couple of slides. That's published in the Office of Hawaiian Affairs newspaper, Kawaiola o Oha, in January 2017, was a kind of a wrap-up from the Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation. And so if you wanted to follow up and read exactly what they were thinking about how behind the scenes things had gone on that were illegal, and forced the BLNR to hit the brakes, it would be beneficial. But what I wanted to share If we could go forward. Now, I don't know how many of you have seen this. Maybe only our kupuna did, because this is an Army Air Corps photo of Haleakala. Nothing. One more. Nothing on top. That's what it's supposed to look like, as I understand it. Do you recognize it? If I had showed you this without telling you that's the summit, you would have gone, what? No, that's the summit. Nothing. It was done in the 1920s, 30s, somewhere in there, Army Air Corps. The other thing I wanted to show is, it's really important, and this is just one suggestion, and I know we should continue tonight, so I thought about what would be one thing that I would recommend as the wheels maybe are turning and your heart is looking inside itself and your now makes a decision about what you want to do. The picture that's up there is on your right is a rendering, right? It's not a picture of the real DKIST. It's a rendering that's done by computer so people could see what it was going to look like. Now that's important because as far as I'm concerned, and I'll go up and up with anybody from the IFA who disagrees with me, what they were doing was taking pictures of the telescope and then taking another picture from Ma'alaya, right around McGregor Point, and going, see, you're not really going to see it. It's not really big. It won't be intrusive. And that's something you really want to be aware of, that might occur. From my perspective, it's already occurred. I don't have a picture of it, but it was made available, I think, in Maui Now magazine. There's a footprint, and they show little circles of green circles on the map of where the 7 telescopes are going to be. They don't show the telescopes, they show the little green circles. I want to see the telescopes. Render me the telescopes, all 7 of them, so I can see what it's going to look like. And now, if we can go back to the picture I had, and then the next picture, you see the red dots? That's just me blowing it up, because I know that in the upper left-hand corner of this picture is where our kupuna are asked to, the kupuna that cannot walk down to the west-facing ahu called Hina La'anui. They cannot make that walk, so they're going to be asked to be, and if you've been up in that area, you know the structure. It's a cement, something was there, cement slab. And then I think the same person, I think Billy Fields, that did the ahu, made those rock walls with Kokua. I'm not sure exactly who, or I would honor them. But that's where the kupuna are going to be. So you got to think, this is what I would recommend as you're preparing yourself. Once you have a rendering, now try to go back to the previous picture. That's in the left-hand corner of this picture, right? It's somewhere in there. I just blew it up. That means if that kupuna is going to Hina La'anui and offering sacred prayer, they just got to go like this, and right behind them are going to be the telescopes. Right behind them are the chillers. If you've ever been inside there, you heard the chillers. There's no stop of sound. You know how wonderful Haleakala is, the most silent place, not inside Science City. So I would ask that people begin to think of different perspectives of, rather than head on. I've been giving it some thought, Space Force domain awareness, that's what it's about. The domain of space, and the argument from the Air Force down through Space Force, down to MSSC, down to AMOSSTAR, is that there is an increased need, and I understand that there is an increased need for all the junk that's up in space. But the United States, especially over anything that is part of the United States, claims sovereignty over that space. That means if the United States claims this, then the United States is claiming the sovereignty above us. They claim sovereign space and anything that's above where we are right now. This would take more than we have time for right now, but I think we need to come up with some creative ideas for reacting to that. Yes, Wahi Summit of Haleakala, Wahi Kapu. Why is the Levelani not a Wahi Kapu? It is, it obviously is. And many of you have probably thought about that before. But how we approach this it's going to take all of us thinking together.
Mahalo kuno.
Mahalo nui.
Mahalo. We're gonna transition to Bldg. But yeah, I like what Ku kind of just ended with. You know, we're seeing this throughout history. We can see this horizontal exchange of colonialism happening, right? And now we're seeing this vertical. So now we're gonna have this vertical and this horizontal and this vertical trajectory of colonialism. And I think that is kind of another way we can think through colonial imperialism for some of us. Sure.
If I were to add on top of what Maluhia just said, we all know that subsequent to Manifest Destiny, the United States believed that it was a divine thing that they needed to do. I think we all understand that there becomes this supremacy that takes place. And when you've got the supremacy, you've got what the supremacists view as the other. Well, ironically, in Hawaii, Hawaiians are the other. And that is something that we all need to be clear about and understand that they being the United States, has always wanted the other to believe in their dreams, and were dismissive of it's working. Shall I start over? From the top. They are dismissive of the beliefs and dreams and works of the other. And yet the other have dreams too.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Sorry. Mahalo. Okay, so.
Oh, it's not working.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I just stuck it. Thank you. Bldg, you've worked on Haleakala. Maybe you can walk us through that when you get the mic. What I'm curious about, along with kind of providing us this important narrative of why an EIS is important for us to not only understand, but the ways in which we will target our testimonies specifically concerning the EIS, since this is what the scoping meetings are about. I'm also curious if you can walk through, for those of us who don't know in the room, a little bit about the leases. Who's leasing the land in Haleakala? Who owns what is the jurisdiction? What is their jurisdiction? And maybe Sesame will talk a little bit about that in a little bit, but kind of that is we're seeing this, it's already the size city, but if we go back, the proposal of the AMIS is kind of outside of maybe what the leases are right now, which I believe those leases are ending in 5 years. And so we can maybe contextualize that for some of us who don't know, and also not only who, is operating off of this lease, but also who are all the actors involved in kind of this whole hoopla, for a better word that I want to use.
Mahalo Maluhia. That's a lot to try and condense down, but I'll do my best. But before I do that, I just want to really acknowledge all the giants in the room that I have the pleasure of sitting next to, who have come before, and mahalo kyope for acknowledging my makane, and all that have passed, and all those who are sitting here that are yet to come. And mahalo yauko makahi. So aloha, my name is Dane Uluvehi Maxwell. My grandfather is Charles Ko'uluvehi Maxwell Sr. And for a long time, sub 2000s, I had the honor of sitting by his side and witnessing what it looks like to be one of just a few, to sit and oppose what he knew to be wrong. Simple as that. Out of that position, standing, many joined him. Many have joined him along the way. And if he had Facebook back then, things would be way different. So the tools we have today is amazing, but subsequent to that, you have long-range development plans or long-range development plans and management plans for the Summit of Haleakala that is under IFA's jurisdiction, which you might see up here. And things that are included in there is a cultural monitor. And that's due to some of the works of the people here and also my grandfather in making sure that language is put in there and that there's someone from our lahui who is there to not always be able to make the change that they want to, but witness the devastating impacts it has to our identity. As simple as that. So my grandfather starts with EOS, or one of the few, one being EOS and also the Phelps telescope. And he monitors these projects. EOS is that big silver thing. It's silver because they told us it would reflect the environment around it and disappear. But no, we know that not to be true. From EOS, it expands into Phelps. I joined in 2004. My grandfather's getting older. He needs someone to be an extension of himself. And I come on with Pan-STARRS 1 and 2. And it's a very difficult position to be in. You have the authority to insert yourself in the process and to make what we know to be wrong, known to that, but not always are you able to fully mitigate. Like Kumu Kyope said, you cannot mitigate sacredness. I hope I quoted you correctly, but that's just not possible. But there are things that you can attempt to work through. I'll give you one example. One is TKIST, where I was a monitor there. If you are familiar with the project, TKIST, it is only there temporarily for our solar cycle, which is, I think it was 25 years or so, or 50 years. 50 years, 2 solar cycles. Yeah, a solar cycle. Now, up at Haleakala, the practices that took place when it came to concrete, that's probably one of the biggest problems we have on the summit is concrete. And it's commingling and integrating into the native soil, which is sacred. Right? The soil there is sacred. I'll just start. That's one of the main things we've come across is that is a kinola of many, but mostly pele. So that soil that is on the summit cannot be removed. Now, what happens when you pour these massive monolithic pieces of concrete up on the summit? When they're slated to be removed, you cannot remove the concrete that is attached to our native soil. Can we? Can we take the soil off of the mountain and be okay with displacing our kupuna, our kinola of our meniakua from? So those are just some of the things you face as a monitor on the summit. And most recently, you may have seen in the newspaper that I was brought in under the Space Force, and this is limited to the remediation of the diesel spill that just took place only a year ago. And you may have seen all the promises that it made too. To observe and understand and learn the culture, and also the word is understand, to really respect the host culture and their beliefs. But a little over a year later, here we are. So we're in a very interesting position. And it, for many reasons, whether it's the on-site crew, you have a lot of Hawaii, in these spaces, but then you also have their immediate command, which is the Pentagon. So you have all these different forces at play. Now, okay, 106, yeah. First and foremost, I am not an environmental lawyer. I just want to say that my expertise is actually in burial law. But if you look at TICIS, if you look at FOLCS, this is just another opportunity. Well, what triggers an EA is when you build in a conservation district in Hawaii's EA environmental laws. And that's where we are. What you see behind me is the notice. They're just telling us this is what's going to take place. And they submit this throughout our different agencies in Hawaii, mostly our environmental agencies. And this is what we're going through, and this is what we're preparing for. But this is one of the many times that we should insert ourselves into the process, just like Kumukiopeta has, and the many of our people in this room here, the entirety of the way. It's a systemic problem. It's something we've seen over and over and over again, where we've gone through the entire process, and the end result is what we've opposed the entire time. But I think it speaks to the mismanagement of these spaces when you see the majority of those, we are the environment, right? This is an environment impact statement. I mean, as a Hawaii and our friends, but those who have mo'opua hau to this aina and who are of this aina, this is us. So this environmental impact is actually speaking about ourselves. So we have, I'll just list some of the things. When you folks go to testify, okay, so I was the chair for the Burial Council for 8 years, and these meetings get very emotional. But it's very important that you convey exactly what is on your mind. If it's just yay or nay at the very beginning, I would always suggest to provide written testimony. Most of them, off the top, just say yay or nay. And a lot of us, we get into, myself included, get into a very emotional statements. But I also hope that we, like Kumukiope had said, we come up with strategic, creative solutions. And my solution has always been to make sure to ask for something. Well, for me, I know when I testify next week, it'll be, I oppose any construction or development. But also, my ask is that either they stay within their footprint and they, so, oh wait, let me go off my tangent a little. But these green dots are no longer within their existing lease of EOS. I want everybody to be clear about this. Is not that space up there is managed by IFA and UH. This place is owned by FAA. So they are, oh, and someone mentioned it earlier, that in 2031, they will be losing, or they will be up to reapply for their lease for that space. And now they're transitioning into a space that is not managed by IFA and UH.
Well,
Person.
could you, for the audience, who are the theys?
Oh, Kalamai, the
Clarify
day.
the theys.
So, in the day, for those of the Space Force was, well, Space Force does fall under Air Force still. They will at some point separate. But you also have Boeing located on theirs, and then there's other experts in the audience that can help me. But then on this side, you have FAA. So that AINA over there is managed by UH and IFA, Institute for Astronomy. And they on this side is FAA. And it's also on the, if you look at the county TMK map, web graphic interface, they have, and they show the lines, so the demarcated TMK line, so you can see. Personally, for me, what I'm seeing here is that they're diversifying. They need to spread out in case they lose their lease. And then also for me is that if they make enough noise, they may also lose their lease, which is not I think that this is not a very smart move on their point. So I think I've gone off topic several times now.
No, I thanks for what you've said. I have a couple questions off of what you've just said. Like, so one thing that I've heard is, you know, there's this kind of lip service happening, right? With respecting the culture and all of this, that they've caught on to, okay, we got to respect the culture. So you can go on their websites, you can talk to them, and they're gonna utter these phrases that we have said, maybe kuleana, maybe pono, all of these kind of phrases that they're gonna use, right? And so, and on another hand, we understand that, well, maybe this is a two-part. So I'm wondering if you can expand on, for us who are thinking, well, then what do we do? Like, is it still important for us to, or is it just gonna be used against us? How do we maybe articulate it in a way where it kind of stops them in their tracks, if possible, just maybe a thought, right? And then also, concerning you said to ask a question. For those who maybe are wondering, well, why ask a question? Because we don't want it built anyway, and asking a question is gonna kind of be, okay, well, we're following that question.
Yeah.
So maybe if you can talk a little bit about why is it important to ask a question? Because, if we oppose it, is that wise? And why is it wise to do so?
I don't think I finished the thought.
Okay,
It wasn't a question, it was to have an ask.
okay.
And my ask would
Or
be
an
that,
ask. Why an
so-
ask?
the ask is to return this aina to a practitioner group, or that is where my testimony is going to be. I have an ask that they remove themselves from the summit as well. I won't just have one ask, I hope to have many asks involved in the process. I think I may have mentioned it earlier of why you keep inserting yourself in the process is to take stock in it, to not take stock, but to log it, to have a record that we've gone through it. And I said this many, many times, and it's not my lifetime, it's my grandpa's lifetime, and it's before and before and before that we keep going through this process. And at some point, all this data is going to pay off. We may arrive at the same point that we have many instances, whether it's Mauna Kea or something similar to that. But we have the tools also today, which is much different than we did when it came to DKIST or those before, Folks, EOS, what have you. What was the other question?
Oh, that was good.
But yeah,
that
please,
answered.
it's an ask. It's not an ask as in a question. I really don't have any want to know what's on their mind. I know what I believe I know what my ohana needs and our kaya ulu needs for the most part. And I hope it echoes what everybody else's asks. Yeah.
Mahalo.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Who are they leasing from? Yeah.
Ooh.
Who are these guys leasing
Yeah.
from?
Space Force. Space Force, the question is,
All of them, actually, yeah.
they're all leasing from UH.
But that particular parcel is not part of the 1965 Governor Queen Executive Order, that's separate, this is from the National Park side.
This is not, this is FAA. I don't know how they convey the land
The
though.
FAA land comes out of the National Parks, and it's in
No.
history where they're fed to.
There is,
Yeah, just to clarify.
that's a great question, along.
Research.
As I understand it, and I need to do more research, I think we all should. When I saw, and it's actually on the maps that Hawaii News Now had it, it shows the boundaries of the IFA who lease from the state of Hawaii,
1965.
65 executive order. And this is a rectangular piece that if you go to the Maui tax map keys, it shows owned by United States of America.
See, that's why I tried to find what is the.
That's what we need to do.
Transfer.
But when that's going to be very important, I can't answer that question, but I know that IFA is on state land. This new one, tax map key says owner, United States of America.
It's vague.
From the National Park side, that we tried to.
We'll have to do more research. Good question, though.
All of them. Yeah. That would be my exact answer. I don't have enough information on it as well. I know that that building has been there for a while, abandoned, the FAA site. I know that those towers belong to the National Guard.
Yeah.
And that's primarily who is active on the site.
The
right now.
rectangle has two, FAA and Department of Energy.
So when DKIS created this laydown area, which should no longer be there, their FAA site spans across behind folks onto the outcropping of rocks and then comes back down along the face and then ends within that gated area.
Okay. Mahalo. We're gonna transition to Auntie Hoku. Oh. Hey, Auntie. This is a lot of good information we're getting about kind of the Space Force, all of them on there. And Kumu Kiope talked a little bit about Haleakala and who is Haleakala to us, right? And so we're wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that maybe leading into what Kumukeope talked about, for those of us who don't know, differentiate for us Vahipana and Vahikapu, and then maybe going into more I know there's a couple ahu up here, and you guys have been able to utilize it. For others who might want to utilize that, what is that process that you know of specifically? I think you have to walk through Science City, and more of the kind of cultural importance and practices that we as Kanaka need and legally should be granted.
Holy camole. Well, maybe I'll start here. There are a couple of hard understandings that Hawaiians should have. One, you are a part of the greater everything. Everything in Hawaii is related to everything. So we, the aina, the wind, the ocean, the rocks, we all related. They are us and we are they. So how can you let someone put that on your body? Your body, because your body is that place and that place is your body. So there are a couple of these overarching things that we should agree to. It is not dirt. It is not dirt. It is me. It is my ancestors for as long as we have lived in this place. It is those greater beings that now inhabit every place and everything that we see, experience, and live with. If not understanding that, you cannot understand why that mountain is sacred. You cannot understand that sacredness is you, and sacredness is that place. So, the Mauna Kea thing taught us several things. Among them is people get scared of the word sacred. They do, because they don't know how to think about it. They don't know how to relate to it. So the high parts of our islands, plural, are the Wawakua. It is the place that all that is created begins. Those places are usually from the cloud line and above. Today, and they took it from us, in the science thinking, that's the watershed area. Yes, it is the akua for the place and how we live. Up there creates water for all of us to survive. The water comes from the tallest mountains that we have, and it distributes it to the rest of us. So if we cannot see that that mountain is us, then we cannot give life to it, and it cannot give life to us. So number one, it being the Wawakua, or the place that the Akua, those elemental beings that give us life, give us water, give us air, then it will be hard for us to feel that it is a Vahikapu. It is a sacred place for all of us. Now, how many of you grew up in Maui? How many of you grew up on Maui? Okay, how many with white hair grew up in Maui? Yeah, okay.
Or no hair?
Or no hair. Grew up in Maui. When you were little, how often did you go to Haleakala?
Rarely.
For me, rarely. I think in the span of my elementary to high school, once. Because for my grandparents, it's not some place to just visit. Plus, you had to pack dinner, lunch, everything to go up the windy mountain. But they saw that it wasn't a tourist destination. It wasn't for you to gawk at anything that you go to see. And we almost always, it was for sunrise. Because sunrise was the glorious time to be there. So that already tells us that humans should be careful or thoughtful, rather than careful, thoughtful about going up to the mountain. If you look at archaeological studies, you can read that online. But basically, it did not have house sites. Don't have places for people to live. Pass through shelters, sure. Temporary shelters, sure. Stay, no. The Wawakua is the sacred place where the Akua assures us that life will be created through water and sunlight. The science people think that they discover all of that. We know that is not so. So, I think if you've been in any of my talks before, you know that I'm a sun person and I'm a rain person. I'm a sun person and a rain person. So with that, for more than 10 years, we have been accessing Haleakala to do ceremonies. For more than 10 years. And the we is a broad we. Yes, my halau, but other halaus have come from around the state to be at those ceremonies. I have groups of cultural practitioners that go up every time we go up. And we know we don't want to go up in December because it's really cold. No, that's when you go up. That's when you go up. So you can appreciate what they have for us. So, and I let the parks know I'm going. I don't ask permission. People say, oh, you don't have to ask permission. Oh, no, I don't ask permission. I tell them I'm going. So they put it on their calendar that people are coming up to do cultural practice. And I tell them I'm not asking permission because I want it to go on somebody's paper somewhere. We were there this day, this day, this day, this day. And every time you go, you should do that. You tell them, my family and I are coming. And they put it down on their paper. So that 10 years later, you can see and say, we have been there more than once and as often as possible. We're going up again in June. So, if you want to come up, do ceremony with us, just see me after. We're going up in June because I do sun ceremonies. So we're going up in June. Haleakala should be revered, honored, elevated. Because without Haleakala, we have no island. Where did the lava come from? Haleakala. We have no island if not for our mountain. We have no rainfall on that side of Maui without our mountain. So the particulars of the cultural need for that place is held in each of us. If we believe that Haleakala is a wahikapu and important for our life, which she is, then you are a part of having her continue to live. What was the other question?
I don't know, but I was just taking it all in. But, yeah, I guess maybe if you can talk a little bit more of how we, besides giving these testimonies and in our daily life, how can we continue to make Haleakala live?
So I want to, first of all, say that what Uluvehi said about testimony is absolutely necessary. Put your name down somewhere. Call up. Hello, I live in Wailuku, Maui. I vote no. Okunk. Yes, and the lady on the other side of the phone will say, yes, what island are you from? What district are you from? That's all you have to say. Yes, saying what else you want in written testimony is absolutely important. You know, sometimes we get nervous, right? You get nervous when you gotta stand up in front of people. You go, oh my gosh, I cannot breathe. What am I supposed to say? I don't know. Write it down, and read it. It's okay. So what should we do for Haleakala? That. Write it down, read it. Call on the telephone, voice, I say no. Whatever way you can say no. When they were coming for DICAS, I had 2 private meetings and 3 public meetings in which I said, no. Oh, but the guys from DC, no. But my one voice was not enough. Our collective voice absolutely is enough. And we should stand by that. Don't be afraid. You know, they have the microphone like this, right? And you walk up to the microphone. If you get nervous, write down the words you want to say them, and that is enough. If you get emotional, because we are so emotional. When we get emotional, it's okay. But make sure the words are heard. We no longer should be afraid. We carry our culture with us always. No matter how you were raised, this is not right. Kiko Pao, no matter how you were raised, this is not right. And that's all you have to say. This is not right. As a Hawaiian, these places belong to you. And what I mean by belong is not like you own them. They are you, and you are from there. Our kupuna have told us, Aina is important, Akua is important, Kanaka is important. But in the Kumulipo, where does Kanaka come? At the end. We're not that important. We're at the end. But we're important because we know we have to take care of everything in the beginning before we come. It's the charge that we are given. You have to take care of everything that came before you. So if, sometimes you think, I don't know what Hawaiian culture, I wasn't raised Hawaiian culture. Yes, you were. Yes, you were. You eat Hawaiian food, you raised Hawaiian culture. You take your shoes off in front of the door, you raised Hawaiian culture. You call from the door to tell your tutu you coming, you were raised Hawaiian culture. That's all part of who we are. So don't forget, we are they are us, and we are all the same. Does that sound like a song? Mahalo.
Mahalo. Mahalo. Mahalo, Auntie Hoku. I liked how you frame that. Whether or not you're genealogically connected to this Aina, you should have some resonance with what she said. Whether or not you are this Aina, because no more rain, if no more Haleakala, no more on the island, and so whether or not, no place for live if you're not Kanaka either. So hopefully that all brings resonance to everyone in the room. So mahalo, Auntie. We're gonna transition to Kumu Sesame. And she's gonna contextualize for us a little bit about the militarization in Hawaii. And this is important, and I hope we're kind of connecting these dots of why the military, why are we talking about the military when we're talking about science? And I hope you're connecting the dots of when we're talking about military in Hawaii or military general, you're gonna be talking about science. When you're talking about science in Western ideology, you're gonna be talking about military. And so we always have to connect those dots to contextualize who are all the actors, what's all going on. And so hopefully, Sess, you can bring that to us. And,
Hopefully I'll try.
you know, hopefully contextualize a little bit about Hawaii's history with the military. So in our Aina, but also, you know, we can start from the very beginning, from the overthrow. We can go to Kaho'olawe, we can go to Puhakuloa, we can go to Makua Valley, we can go to Kapukapi, we can go to Haleakala, we can go to Lipoa, the tech center right down there at Kihei. Like all these places, whether it's framed as a business or a science, they're all militarily involved, right? And so could you talk to us a little bit about that, and maybe also the importance of the military being one of the leading culprits to environmental damage in the world, and why that's important, and how that's tied to capitalism.
Fix the world for us, Sesame, fix it.
Jeez.
Okay. Okay, mahalo nui to all of you guys. It's a little bit nerve-wracking to sit next to these three kanaka who have worked and dedicated their lives to the betterment of our lahui. So mahalo nui, it's an honor, a huge honor to sit next to you three. And to everybody else in the crowd, I didn't realize it was gonna be this kind of I guess, yeah, that's a huge question. I think I tried to teach my whole class over the whole year that. I guess kind of, I'll start off with me. And why I'm chosen here, because I have a little bit of history with working at the Research and Technology Park in Kihei. So when I went to school, my upbringing was very culturally disconnected, but you know, it's always innate in us. We always have that in our na'au. After college, I went to college to become an engineer, because that was the thing back in the early 2000s, was you get a lot of money for being an engineer. I came back and got a job at the Research and Technology Park, a company that still exists today, Oceanit. I didn't work specifically for the AMOS project, but I always heard about it and stuff. I worked on this other department, and these projects are all Department of Defense projects, okay? So all of these fundings, that majority of those companies at the Research and Technology Park, where they get their funding from is from Department of Defense contracts. And if you look it up, you can Google it. I just looked it up with my class. This year, they set aside $850 million in funding for the Department of Defense, which is almost $1 trillion. Billion. Did I say million? Yeah, billion. Yeah, billion. Sorry. So yeah, I mean, my experience there, I worked there from 2004, so I was on the other side of the the coin when everybody was opposing in 2005. I worked there until 2009, and I jumped to another company trying to get out of the whole Department of Defense and all of that, but it was just very heavy. But yeah, I mean, my experiences there, very like cliche. Oh, well, in Hawaii, you don't really get paid that as much as you would in America. Or, but then at the same time, they're bringing over very unqualified people from America to take their management positions for 6 figures, who really don't know what they're doing. But also the worst part was when I would hear them talk about Kanaka fighting their projects. And I would just hear that and just hear the racism in what they're saying and all of that, and it just always affected me, like in my na'au, and I always just fueled this like, ugh, like I'm not supposed to be here. This is so wrong. But what am I gonna do? So there's that. But yeah. So after that, it took me a while to kind of get away from that. My keiki, we decided to put them in Kaiapuni, and that really that leap into engaging into my culture, taking Hawaiian studies classes, Olelo Hawaii, and really understanding my own identity. Just that, I mahalo that because that fueled a fire within me to holomua, to learn more, to do more, and really dedicate a lot of my life to this. So so currently I am a kumu kaiapuni at Keko'o, and I teach history. So really quickly, just kind of looking back. So you see this whole construct, right? They're always trying to talk about these projects. Oh, they really try to downsize the weapons of mass destruction. These projects aren't supporting weapons of mass destruction. It's all about space surveillance and protecting our space sites out there. But really, if you look at it as a whole, it's this whole military-industrial complex. And industrial, you hear capitalism, right? And how we feed that. So just to kind of take it back, as Malu had shared, 1893 overthrow backed by the U.S. military. That was kind of the beginning of U.S. military. They always really had their sights on us. 1895, the Land Act. And so this is kind of, you're going to look at when they transition, the Republic of Hawaii transitions government lands and crown lands into public lands, very gray. And so that's when I wanted to ask, what is this lands? Is these public lands? Because that's our political authority. If these are crown lands, these are our lands. We have political authority over these lands. So we have the authority to say, and summing it up, essentially opposing this site is we oppose anyone who tries to invalidate, manipulate, define, invalidate, or manipulate our authority over our lands and how we determine its customary and political uses. So we do have a political authority over these lands, and we also do have a genealogical authority, as Auntie Hoku had shared. So to be very clear about all of that. To kind of, we move forward in new lands resolutions. Military starts beginning to take claim of our lands. Organic Act, and then in 1905. They start this Hawaii Promotional Committee, which nowadays would be viewed as the Hawaii Visitors Bureau. And they had three motives, three things that they were really trying to do. And it's really to entice American settlers to Hawaii. 2 is tourism, and 3 was military expansion. So when you looked at that collectively, tourism, military, it's all intertwined, and that's really like all of this is the military industrial complex. So when we look at that, it's America always has this goal. When you look at imperialism and colonization and moving forward, their goal is to domination over everything, over Kanaka, over our lands, and now you see over our space as well. Essentially, it's just to feed all of their capitalistic desires. Am I?
Okay, mahalo. I guess I have, do we have time? I want to give room for questions. Anybody else? Okay. All right, maybe one more question for Seth. You talked about, could you talk a little bit more about, because I know, okay. Wait, can we confirm if this is public trust lands? Not right now, okay.
Yeah.
That's a good.
Yeah.
Okay, so you brought up the Poa Park a little bit, and maybe if people aren't familiar, how is this connected to Haleakala?
Yes. So back when I was there, it was called Maui Research and Technology Center. Oh, sorry, Maui Research and Technology Center. Today, I just kind of was trying to do some research on what that looks like now, and now they call it Lipoa, Lipoa Park. So they're transitioning their name from Maui Research and Technology Center to Lipoa Park. Of course, they're gonna use a Hawaiian name, use our language to make it look good. When you open that site, this center is very heavily in real estate development. So you see, so like exactly, so what I had shared about American settlers, right? That's part of that list. They're enticing more workers, people to work in this park, and then you can also have a space to live in this area. So it's like this whole like technology community that they're trying to support. But yeah, so this is their site. And you can look at like all of the businesses and stuff that they have on here. Yeah. So before it was just like that MRTC area. That's how big it was when I was there. And then now this is like how much they've expanded. They have like their own school over there. They have a whole like housing community and everything. But if you look at all of the businesses that are over there, I'm gonna check that. Do
you know anything about the fiber optic line that runs from the summit to the bottom?
I mean,
I think they proposed.
so these are all the businesses that they're promoting in this area. So sometimes like military expansion is not necessarily just like expanding over Aina. It's expanding over like technological power, right? And everything to support this like whole new space and technology world that we have. And so, space surveillance, they want to look at all of these different like debris that could really actually destroy a lot of satellites that are in space. So that's why they're trying to share like, oh, we need these satellites for communication and all this need, but so we need to surveillance the space so that we can protect our satellites. But really, I mean, when it comes to the military surveillance, they're really surveillancing us too. You look at COINTELPRO and all of our history, they really want to watch and see what we're doing as well. So there's so many dynamics and elements when it comes to militarization. It's not always just directly weapons of mass destruction. It's how they can continue to have power over us. We opened up one, which privateer, you want to open up? Or what do you want?
No, it's gonna maybe transition.
Transition? Okay.
We're gonna transition a little bit. We're almost at halfway to the end, but before we go into questions and answers, we want to bring up Kumu. But before he comes up, just wanted to mahalo you, Sesame, and that kind of information. And as George Chap would say, do your homework, do your homework, do your homework. And so continue to do your homework on all of these sites. I highly recommend going onto Kila's site because it's just a full-on archive that you can just get lost in. So go get lost.
I have a question.
Sure.
So my question is, my question is to these guys. My question is, what are they saying is the reason why they have to be at the top of Haleakala and not at this place? Do we know?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, you know?
According to the site, it says,
It's because
But-
of seeing the atmosphere up there is a lot less.
Sure, I understand that part, but I also understand that throughout the world, they have the very same telescopes at ground level.
Oh, exactly.
Right, so,
Show up to the meeting. You gotta show up and ask that
okay,
question.
real quick, I know we wanna get into some questions, but to little close our panel, Kalei's gonna, say a little few closing words, and then we'll get into some questions and answers. So, few, that is it.
Very na naman yung Kako'o.
aloha.
Mahalo. Great panel tonight. I'm very, very happy. Whenever we have a group of people here, a lot of new faces, we're very, very excited and happy. Let me just kind of start off by saying, when I look at these kinds of situations, I come with these kinds of situations always with great hope and faith. But these are opportunities for our people. You see, this is how our people learn. The key to our liberation is always education. So no matter what they do to us, I always say, no matter what they do to us, it doesn't matter. It's really what we do to ourselves, you see, how we educate ourselves, that's the key. And who's gonna educate us? Us. Us, everybody. You see, so this is an opportunity. Because what they bet on is our apathy. As the great George Allen said, the worst thing is being apathetic. Apathy. Lay down, let them do to us whatever they want. And as I always say, I stand by myself. But I know when you get two people, that's strong. You get 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 100, you get thousands. And we see what we can do. Especially with the leadership of our most treasured Ulu Kupuna, like at the moment. But we also understand it takes everybody. And we gotta organize. And to organize, you gotta educate yourself. And education is the key. And so I'm just gonna drop a few things kind of just added to really pay attention to these kinds of issues and how we teach. See, the Air Force, they wanna pretend that's theirs. And that's not pretending. Because it's simple. When you ask the question, well, where's your paper? And they'll bring out some papers. And you say, well, who's the Grand Turk to the Grand Sea? An educated person is not gonna be fooled. But if you don't know, you're gonna go right along, go, yeah, you must have something. But see, those of us who know, we know. They do not have title. They may say they own something, but I know the history. And in fact, we should all know the history. And if you don't know, you should ask yourself, how come? And if you don't know, you should never believe one thing I said or anything that they said. You should know for yourself. And let's say, in fact, that picture of Lipoa. Let's start off with Lipoa. How many of you guys know Lipoa is all Hawaiian homelands? That's the truth. The whole tech center is built on Hawaiian homelands. That's a federal law, supposedly. Set aside for who? Beneficiaries. I don't know, but I see all kinds of people around the world using those lands. That's Hawaiian homelands. Let's start off there. And as you work your way up to the Mauna, to Haleakala, we know, I think it was 1920, I think, when the national parks took those lands supposedly from the territory of Hawaii. Okay, we're already in the territory of Hawaii, supposedly, make claim to the lands. Whoa, they say they got it from 1900, from the so-called Organic Act that Congress had passed that said that they received the lands ceded, so that seed lands comes from 1898, from the so-called New Lands Resolution. And also if you study civics, you should understand what a resolution is. A resolution is an internal domestic law. But see, the problem in Hawaii is that these lands had already been, you want to call paper, documented, titled in the Hawaiian Kingdom period very clearly. And so in 1898, through the New Lands Resolution, the United States failed. Let's be clear. In 1897, the United States failed to get the so-called Treaty of Annexation passed, to be affirmed and ratified in the U.S. Senate. That is Article 2, Section 2 of the United States Constitution. Don't believe Kako'o. Go read Kamek, 1987. You can find it on the web. Hired by the Justice Department, trying to figure out what to do with territorial sea issues in Taiwan. The United States is trying to figure out how to get their, military into that area. So they're trying to see how they can extend their so-called sovereignty into international waters. And Kamek says, well, let's go look at Hawaii. Hawaii's going to give us the answers. Obviously, how did the United States take Hawaii? And so he does his research, he puts out a paper, and he basically concludes, I don't know how the hell the United States got Hawaii. This is a Justice Department guy. He's saying he don't know what the United States, what constitutional right they had to take Hawaii. He don't know. You don't believe me? Go look up Desires. No idea that was maybe 6-7 years ago. Human Rights Commission, United Nations himself says, the Hawaiian Kingdom is in continuity under some strange form of occupation. That's not Kako'o saying these things. So I want you guys to understand, the truth is out there. And what we need to do is speak the truth a little more. Because we know they're going to turn their backs. We know they're going to pretend. They know they're going to stick their head up. And they're going to try to drive this into. But no matter what they do, we got to continue to speak the truth. The truth, the truth, the truth. That is the only way we can educate. Because that is going to show the contradiction of the supposed great country that talks about freedom. They talk about Department of Defense. To defend against what? To defend against others who may do to them what they do to us. They don't want a foreign country coming in, China coming in. What the hell do you think they're doing to us? So you gotta understand this whole process, this military situation, this is a military operation going on right here. So if they talk about the sciences, we know from the DKIS, when back then was ATSD, you ask him the science war, someone we don't really know. Come on. You think we're foolish? You think we cannot see it's 6 more telescopes, Department of Defense you want to put up there for us?
They want to put up 7.
They want to put up 7. See, and they want to put up more. But the point we got to keep on saying, we know where they want to put their telescopes on. Those lands belong to our Lahui Kanaka, without a doubt. And I will challenge anybody here to show me otherwise. All you gotta do is show me the paper. I can show you ours without a doubt. And this is part of the scam. Part of the scam is to make you talk about things on the outside. What kind of paint you want to paint the building, or the name of the road, or You don't want to stick to the issue. Who the hell are you? What the hell are you on our mountain for? And let's be clear. The mentality of these folks. I dealt with them, we know, what is the guy from the Solar Observatory? Craig Foltz. I told that guy once, I will make his name famous. Craig Foltz. National Science Foundation, Solar Telescope. We meet with him. And I tell him this whole story about, the humanity. And I ask him, as Gandhi said, one of the 7 sins is science without humanity. And I ask him, what is the humanity for the Solar Telescope? And he turns to us and he goes, oh, it's just pure selfish research. I want to choke on his neck. I thought he was going to give, that's Hawaiians, I can bleed. You're going to save some people's lives out there. We're going to work with the sun, so we're going to, stop our brothers and sisters in the south from their islands being whatever. Saving lives. I can understand. I can suffer as a Hawaiian if that's what we're going to do. But pure selfish research. And then you find out the kinds of monies and the kinds of programs, contracts that come along with this. Then you start to see the real story. So this is Hawaii under illegal occupation. The U.S. military has abused the people for many, many years. And I apologize, if you're from the U.S. military, that's an issue you deal with, not me. Because I know what they've done. I know what they still do. Kapukaki, that's still going on. They're still lying about that. You want to talk about Kapu? There are Marines that dug up 3,000 sets of remains of our people. 3,000. Still in boxes. And you talk about freedom. You wanna talk about Mauna Kea? You wanna talk Kako'o? You wanna talk about radioactive materials? You wanna talk about nuclear submarines that bring radioactive materials into our islands? That's in Hawaii. They're talking about weapons of mass destruction. Where do you think they are? Right here. This is ground zero right here in the Pacific. But they count on us on being silent. They hope we don't say anything. And then going back to our struggles in the past. If people say, oh, Kako'o, you cannot stop them. I don't care if I cannot stop them. I know what is right. I don't care if we cannot stop them. I know I will stand as one Kanaka. No matter what. Because I may not win this battle, but I know we will win the war in the end. And the way we win the war is through truth, through organizing, and in the end, stand when we need to stand. This is a very important time for our people. So I always say, take this advantage of the time to share, to speak, to organize. And I hear these voices. I mean, these are new and more voices we have. And we tie in the new with the old. Well, not to say old. The experience. Sorry. The experience. I'm one of these right here. And I apologize for kind of being winded, but my point is, it's never been about the truths and facts and the history. We know that. It's been strictly about power and greed. And IFA, I remember talking to Gunter, whatever his name was, the head of the IFA. What is that for you? This is about Mauna Kea. And he came to the OHA meeting to testify on behalf of the IFA. And so me and him kind of got into a big split in front of everybody. And he turns to me and he says, Kako'o, Mauna Kea belongs to the world. I turned to him and said, damn you think you speak for the world. That's white supremacy sickness in you. So who the hell told you speak for the world? And who the hell said you gave Mauna Kea to the world in the first place? It's not even his to give. And I asked him, how long you been here? 11 years. 11 years from Germany and you're going to give Mauna Kea to the world? See, this is a sickness that they have. It's a sickness. And we got to call them out for that. But this is what we're facing. This is what we're struggling. This is what we're fighting against. But I always say this. As I learned, the great Kwame Ture said, the strongest swimmers swim in the roughest seas. The strongest swimmers swim in the roughest seas. There's no place that is as militarized, missionized, culturecized, whatever in Hawaii. Our people struggle to survive here. To survive in our own homeland. We don't get to even define for ourselves. That's why for me the whole thing about sacredness, we got to be careful. Because their game is somehow, they believe, we got to prove to them. The hell with them. I don't give a shit what they think about Mauna Kea or Haleakala being sacred. It's not their mountain. It doesn't matter what their opinion is. See, we got to get off that hook. It matters what we think. If we believe it's sacred, yes it is. I have no need or morality or anything to prove to anybody else it is. Who the hell are they? They're not more human than me. I'm as human as anybody else. And we as the Lahaui Kanaka have every right in these islands to determine for ourselves what land we want to use or not use. And the help is to say that we don't need any more telescopes on our mountain and our lands. So I'm here to say I support my brothers and sisters, and I mahalo you guys and everyone here, and I just like to say, do your homework. As was said, John Shem said, do your homework, do your homework, do your homework, and speak and fight. Stand. Be proud. And remember, if they have kuleana up there, show me where. Mahalo.
All right, we're gonna go into some questions. I think I saw a question here, or no? Did you have a question?
I was shy after that.
Oh. Shy for, okay.
Besides starting a Haleakala board, where else might people need to go to research, right? So if you want to find out whether or not that is public lands or if in fact America itself is claiming that land or the big state is claiming that land, where might one go to find that information? Where might one find more information about this particular project? Like real information, not like news articles, do you know what I mean? So if you right there, you sign in at the top, we'll send, we're preparing some resources to send out to everybody.
But they're online already.
But we just said, but that's the kind of question you gotta ask about EIS too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You
yeah,
ask them, what is
Yeah.
your title?
yeah.
That's the kind of question you put to that, to ask for why you need an EIS, because it's not clear.
That's
They're
exactly
supposedly
what,
gonna answer that question.
no, it's exactly what I would have, I think everybody on the panel would have said is the purpose of the scoping is for them to receive. They will, everything will be shared. In fact, it's on the site, AMOS, STAREIS. And you can get directly, and they will tell you what they want, but as Kako'o shared, you don't have to wait, you don't have to follow their lead. They'll say, oh, you need to give justification, something like that, for, give more than I oppose it. Well, hell no, just say I oppose it. If 10,000 say I oppose it, they really have to listen. So the legal aspects of it, I just did a quick, when I was saying I got to Maui County tax maps, they're all available. And I just started going down that ohiki hole, that crab hole, and have fun doing that. It's really, when you get into the Space Force, I knew Space Force existed, but you really go down deep into what Space Force does and proposes to do, it really gives you pause and you just go, whoa, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, like I had said earlier, say something, write something,
Yeah.
stand up in front of the microphone even to read a paragraph or 5 lines, because it all has to be recorded. It all has to be put down, 10,000 voices. We also know what we have seen from Mauna Kea is they like to divide us. And they'll find one Kanaka that says yes, and they'll run with that so that it looks like all the rest of us said yes. So we have to be consistent, yeah? You have something?
What's the question?
What we going to do, where we find answers and stuff like that?
I keep arriving where Kako'o is. Show me how you convey the land to your what title you hold. And I think that ask, maybe that's part of the ask. Show me how we arrived there, and if 10,000 people ask the same question, and the military responds with their own response, that'd be quite interesting if they could self-incriminate. I really don't. I think you put things into perspective for me, and I don't need to have them validate my importance of why Haleakala is. It's not even significant or special. It is, right? So. But yes, detail as much as you want. If you've been to Hinala'anui, I just want to say that Hinala'anui, the west-facing ahu, is for everybody. Access it. You should be able to drive up to it. And the main reason Hinala'anui was built in that space is because, previously there was a TV station that we demoed and we removed out from that space, me and this person, Brett. But my grandfather was looking at a space for Hawaiians to start reclaiming places on Pu'ukolekole. And it was placed there because it was the least impacted by sound, by visual, whatever. And now they plan to put this in extremely close proximity. So like they said, the generators are there, so you have that audible impact on you as you're trying to be Hawaii. So communicate all these things, and also, if you're not Hawaii, you can speak to many different things. You have ua'u up there, your black rum petrol, you have all the
What was mentioned in the Kumulipo.
in the Kumulipo, right? And you have all these insects that are this is their only habitat that are up there that need us to speak for them. So if you need something to look for, there's many things to speak on behalf of when you testify.
No problem, go for it.
Let them know we're gonna put it in a document of talking points for the species.
Oh. Okay.
Just question.
We have a question here.
My nino is besides Apole, besides where, where do you think you have standing to be here? What other manao from Mauna Kea, from previous battles, do we have to reiterate to them over and over again? What do they need to hear from us in our testimony over and over again for them to understand? Because obviously they really don't care about the importance, they don't care about what it means to us as much as we need them to. So what else do we need to say to them?
That's a very good question, and I guess I would go back to what I was saying earlier, and it may not have been heard because I didn't use the microphone. And it's to the responsibility for all of us to think of creative demands, asks. One slide, it occurred to me, and hadn't occurred to me before for this project, was where kupuna are going to be asked to stand because they cannot make it down the trail to Hinala'anui. It's going to be very disruptive. You're there for a sense of centeredness and peace and pule, and the chillers are going right behind you, and within your peripheral vision will be these telescopes. Those kinds of things. Other questions, creative questions. Okay, you say you're gonna, it was great on top of what Hoku said, let the things come to you and then jot them down and pass them along. It occurred to me, okay, so maybe they prove that these are two separate parcels. You still are gonna send your information from the telescopes to the existing MSSC structure. How are you going to get there? Are you going to dig into the ground? Are you proposing to have above ground cables? How are you going to send the data over there? And if you're going to dig, again, all of these, I don't personally have a lot of answers tonight, but I'm ready to help think of questions and ready to share ideas. I guess one last thing that does come to mind, there are pros and cons to this, but honestly, if you're thinking of a stalling tactic, I'm thinking of proposing the thing that Haleakala does not have, and it is a comprehensive management plan. So there are separate entities. There's the National Park, there's the FAA, there's the Institute for Astronomy, and each one of them has their own long-range development plan, and they get approved by the state, but there is no comprehensive summit area comprehensive plan. Now, if we look at Mauna Kea, there are pluses and minuses to following that route. But honestly, I see that as a possible delay tactic, that there really should be a comprehensive management plan for the summit of Haleakala before anything moves forward. Just an idea.
Can I add a little bit? Did you mention something about how they connect the data to each other?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, and then my question is, how are they gonna do that? So that
Right.
would mean, I would pose that would be my.
I think something in their, what was it? Their notice of EIS, they mentioned that they are going to have to expand. And if you look on Pu'ukolekole facing Kaʻolave, there's a big fiber optic cable that runs all the way down and traverses many different TMKs. And I'm not sure, but that might be what they're speaking to, that they will upgrade that. We'll see what happens. I did want to say, we have the pleasure of having Auntie Ulu in attendance today, and mahalo. I think, having those who represent us in different spaces and organizations who are the face of who we are, speak on behalf of our sentiments that we shared here tonight and across the Wai'aina. So whether it's your legislator, or it's OHA, or it's CNHA, or even if it's your halau, if we can collectively, as groups, and as one large collective group, say, Aole, I think that's very powerful in itself, is like just trying to think outside the box.
I think always when we stand up and we testify is recognizing our power, and that this has always been a struggle over power throughout our history with the plantation and everything, whether it's our water, whether if this is the use of our lands, it's power. We have the right, we say that this is ours, you know, and we're always fighting this struggle over power with these people. So them having to listen to what we say is very important to identify, and doing your homework, knowing your history, and knowing, you know, our authority over these lands and water.
And I just want to reiterate what Uluvehi said. There is something out there that interests you, that has to do with this. If you love air, do your research on that. If you love birds, do your research on that. If you love your cultural need, do your research on that. If you want to be able to know the science, do your research on that. I don't think we all have to know everything, but we do have to know something, and we do have to be willing to delve into that.
Mahalo nui. I've asked Maluhia to bring this. This is the AMOSSTAREIS site, and she'll take you through some of the pull-down screens just for a minute or two.
Okay, so if you go here, this is a home page, and it gives you a little synopsis of the EIS process and where the meetings are going to be held. If you go up to the upper tabs and you see the scoping materials, they give you these documents. So you can view the documents. They're all in PDF. I go one by one, and you can go through them. And then they also give you some figures and some maps of the proposed Amos Star facility location. And so this is kind of what we had in that green picture with the maps, all those green. But right here, this is the one that Kumukiope zoomed in on, is this red lining one. And you can go through all of its imagery here. And then you go and you can provide comments. So this is where we would want to go as far as if you can't make a scoping meeting or anything like that, you can go here and provide comments and put your input and follow these directions as so. And it's an easy form right here, Google form, which we all love. And so it's super easy to just click, write a little bit comments, and submit. I think another good idea to answer this question is maybe we heard about the fuel spill that happened, right? Why are we thinking of starting another project when we haven't properly dealt with the fuel spill, right? Like, can we handle that a little bit before we try and move on to another PUKIA, right? Where's that? Okay. Documents? Okay. Do you wanna talk about it?
You can just go to it, it's pretty self-explanatory. Project alternatives right there, so there's options. So we all wanna be stern in saying option 3, or alternative 3 is no action alternative.
Yep.
So that means.
Mahalo Tia. That's why there's actually what they want is 7. That's their first alternative. They want to do 6 telescopes and then on the existing building build another one, so there would be 7. Their second alternative is, okay, we won't do 7, we'll just do 6. And their third is what's called no action. And that's what we want to stress. No action. You do nothing. You pack up, you go away.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry, I can't help but I saw the name Tetra Tech on there. If you write to somebody.
You can write to them.
It's alarming me only because Tetra architect right now is involved in Lahaina.
Yep.
So how, if anybody knows anything more about them, I'm surprised to see that anyone there. What is it? Central Tech. They're involved with, they do a lot of government contracting,
Yep.
they put together a lot of documents, EISs. But that's like kind of the go-to for government organizations. And if Uncle can elaborate on which is the department, the agency, state agency that is the accepting authority to the EIS.
Yeah, OC, what is it?
OCCL.
OCCF. Acronyms. Yeah, like I said, when I first started speaking, you gotta know your acronyms, right? So there's OCCL. Tiana, you should just.
OCCL is within the Department of Land and Natural Resources. It's the Office of Conservation and Coastal Lands.
Yeah.
So they would be the accepting authority that's gonna accept the EIS.
That's why I'm asking, but is this a state project or Fed? See, that's the question we gotta go figure out.
There-
It's
these are-
FAA.
There are questions upon questions,
Yeah.
layers and layers, and really that's
And how
what
come
we
it's going
need to
there?
unravel now.
Let's
I
prepare
think,
for
I
them
think
when
for,
the DLNR.
for me, my biggest concern, I think they realize that the leases are coming up across the state, you know, and all the military leases. And so they're trying to get creative and try to go in like FAA lands. And that like scares me because that's a federal government agency and they're in cahoots together and we're talking space and air. So I think that is the one that is most alarming, and I think that's where our congressional delegation is really important, like how he had mentioned, that we not only hone in on this, but also like be very vocal at our within our legislators, our Congress, because it's really important.
I knew that when I first started saying mahalo to different people, and I was saying, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention. I was remiss and I did not mention the strength of Kako'o Haleakala. Mahalo to you, Karen, mahalo to Kahele, mahalo to Terry, mahalo to Maria, mahalo to everyone in Kako'o Haleakala that really has taken up the reins of saying, don't just sit on your elemo ki hope, get up and do something.
Maybe just touch on the organizing side of things. Sorry. So next week we have the 3 meetings.
Mahalo, mahalo, okay.
So they posted, organize, and the organizer, I can't help myself. So you have the 3 scoping meetings next week, and it's really, really important that we fill those rooms. There's one in Kahului, one in Pukalani. I know for myself, I'm gonna be at more like the Pukalani one, but the Kihei one is a big concern because I believe that that's where a lot of the Po'ehaole, or I mean, I shouldn't say that, but their supporters are gonna go to the Kihei one, right? Because a lot of them work in the tech center and are over there. So if you can, go to multiple meetings and just have a presence, even though you testified at one, just have a presence at the other. That is helpful. We are working to print some OG Kila Kila o Haleakala t-shirts, and we will have them available at the scoping meetings next week. Tori will put together, she doesn't know it yet, but she's gonna put together a Google form where you can pre-order so we kind of get a gist of who's coming and head count. We'll also have extra shirts available to purchase, and that so that we come unified and together as a lahui to make that statement. One other thing too is that what's helped us in the past is if you live at home, I'm gonna help my kids write their testimony, but every single person in your household, instead of just one person submitting testimony, submit for every child in your your kupuna, as much people as we can get, tag your friends. I've done this many times where I will write testimonies for a lot of my cousins that are lazy, and I tell them, just copy, paste, put this, and make it personal too. Be very clear on what your name, where you're from, especially if you're from Maui. Obviously, alternative 3 is really important for everybody to state. And then social media is a force. Share everything. If you haven't signed up, please put your email. We're going to be putting together a Google Doc with all of this information, also with template testimonies that you can use to help formulate your own testimony and share. And that will hopefully be on Kako'o Haleakala come this Thursday, by Thursday. Friday. Friday. They got
Soon as
graduation
can,
at 5
soon as
Thursday.
can.
So they're slapped, so Friday. And,
But
One month from today.
everything's due from 1 month.
It's June 7th.
yes, we still have plenty of time.
No, we
Yeah,
just stick to
but
it.
there
Yeah.
is power in numbers. When we show up, we've won a lot of things. And so the goal is to get thousands of comments in opposition within the next 30 days. So the more we can share, the more we can get our ohana and friends and family, the better off we are.
So I think the other thing to remember too is that we're gearing up for the scoping, but this is just the beginning. So you can get information on Kako'o Haleakala, but we will be, waging the war again, sort of on education, right? So trying to get the word out there, getting people involved, getting people to learn about the historic elements of Haleakala, but also the present issues that are happening. So again, put your name down there, we'll get some information together. And really, if every single one of us gets 5 to 10 people to also become involved, that's really what we need. We really need numbers. We really need numbers. And even if you think right now you don't know what to say, just say something. Go to every single one and say something, and by the third one, you'll be great.
We'll help you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Real quick, I don't know how it's gonna be connected, because we don't know if it's gonna be a state or federal kind of situation, but I know going back to the Kako'o Haleakala, I think it's important for the audience also to recognize, and I really applaud Kako'o's work on the legal side. I think there were 4, it was actually 4, right? Was it 4 cases that ended up in the Supreme Court?
Yes.
4. I mean, think about that. 4! I mean, just to get one case heard at the state Supreme Court is already like, I mean, that'll be a big question. Haleakala, you had 4. And I think Kako'o, we actually won 2
We
of
won
them.
2.
Yeah, they won 2 of them. Which is already amazing. This is showing there's a lot of crap that's going on that side. The fact that have to go all the way to the Supreme Court. And Kako'o actually won 2. And the last one, I think, was 3-2, in fact. Was
very
real.
close.
This is how close the D-case was to not being built. It was really by 1 vote. So my point is, don't think of this as being some kind of, this bunch of crazy radical Hawaiians just, in their holy system, we were that close. This is how rotten I'm trying to say that side is. That even in their system, and the whole thing about that, what's that legal law, I forget, that was one of the issues there, where Abercrombie's office or Ine's office were calling directly down to the UH.
Oh, yeah, she took a meeting.
I mean, what's crooked crap, put it that way. This is straight up.
Straight
It
up.
was crooked crap that occurred. You had government officials who had no authorities getting involved directly, talking to lawyers to get this to be done. In other words, so let's just be clear, we're fighting against a very, very strong beast. But the point is, I guess for me, there's always hope. That's why even in their system, that's how close we were last time with the DPS. So I don't know how this is going to roll out, but I don't know if Kila has any kind of, I don't know what we can use from those tactics or whatever was within the legal side perhaps that we can look at.
Mention the 2 cases that
What kind of guidance perhaps would you think of offering in regards to that as an option perhaps in the future? I know it's a long distance way out
It
there.
is a long distance, the scoping, and if I recall correctly, what you folks will see at the site is that the draft environmental impact statement will come out in 2025, and then they'll issue a final environmental impact statement. When you go to the documentation, you'll see that it is the responsibility of the proposing party to, it's not just a tick, make checks on a list. They really have to do their homework. And if you're interested in anything and you see, they have to meet certain environmental standards, and you know your perspective, what you want to say about that, research it, do it, make that statement. Back to what you have just asked, Kako'o. No, I'll be candid. There's some things that were so hurtful. My na'au was so eha that I put it out of sight, out of mind. But I would say that I do believe when I first started talking that our team of Kimo Franco, who's no longer at Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation, Camille Kalama, I don't think she's there either, but Charlotte Manley still is, would be willing, and I promise I will do this, recontact our legal team and ask them for advice. Yeah. But mahalo for that question. I think Maluvia has asked that there be a closing.
Oh, is that me?
Was that you?
You had. Oh, hikia'u.
Mahalo. Maluvia, Nate.
Oh, no need stand unless you want to clap along with me. Yeah, clap along with me. So this chant, Nale knows, but this chant is one that talks about that there is no other place as beautiful as Maui. And her ali'i made sure that she prospered. We should remember that. There is no more beautiful place than Maui. And her leaders made sure that she prospered. That should be us. Aua ka'aia lakia mauila pauna niraina. I ka ui ke ua puni o Maui me kanani a o he rea he ike aku a pa'a ka mana o ke ike nali I o ka aina kuhili a Maui Mahalo.
Hallelujah.